What is up, guys? I am here in my office, new space for filming. I've got some lights here, I've got some LEDs here, I've got a big bulb fixture over here, I've got some lights above me, I've got the LifeX beam fixture behind me, which I either have or will be uploading a video for soon. Not sure when that'll be at the time of this video, but whether or not it's up now, there will be a video sometime. Down here, I've got the Aperture MC. Might talk about that some other time. And the little red guy is just a little LED for drone safety. And speaking of drones, that's what we're talking about today. So behind me, I've got my DJI Mavic Mini. So for filmmakers, obviously drones are the new big thing. They're not really all that new. They've been a thing for quite a while now, but DJI and other companies keep pushing them better and better every year. But as the technology improves, so do the regulations. Within the last year or so, Canada, where I live, has put in some really strict rules about flying, specifically drones above 250 grams, which is why DJI came out with the Mavic Mini, which is 249 grams. So they're 1 gram shy away from being classified as these drones. So with this drone, the only regulation in the Transport Canada regulations is to fly responsibly. There are other rules that you have to follow that aren't listed there, like no flying in Class F zones, which is basically one of the most, if not the most, restricted fly zones, which is Parliament Hill in Ottawa, for example. And you can't fly them in national parks in Canada. I don't know why they don't share that in the Transport Canada rules, but aside from that, there are also local bylaws that you have to follow, which may not be represented in the national laws. But aside from all that, the reason that I bought this is because basically I don't have to worry about contacting all the authorities to make sure that I can fly my drone within the city. I can just look up the local area that I'm in and then fly it without worrying about the big national laws. Obviously, when I'm flying, I'm always flying responsibly, but you know, sometimes you're gonna crash your drone once or twice. Or 3 times. I have now crashed my Mavic Mini 3 times. Thankfully, I have gotten it back. Every time it has been functional afterwards. The only issue that's come from that is I've needed to replace the propellers, but thankfully that's only a $10 to $15 fix from Amazon. You just buy a new pack of propellers. The Mavic Mini is probably the best quality drone for the lowest price while flying underneath those new drone restrictions of 250 grams or more. For video, it's got 1080p at 60 frames per second. It's got 2.7K, not 4K unfortunately, at 24 and maybe 30 frames per second. I'm not sure about 30. Photo quality is also pretty good. I don't remember the amount of megapixels off the top of my head, but there are many other reviews on this drone that I don't think I need to do another one. But I wanted to talk about this drone because as filmmakers, I think drones are a big asset to our collection of gear. I got this one close to the time that it released. I think I got it in November 2019. I used it for a wedding in December. I used it shooting a camp in January or February. Used it for another wedding. I've also just used it for fun, used it for work. And every time, other than the times that I've crashed it, it's been working great. I don't hate the footage, but I feel like I'm still restricted in the quality that I get because there's no 4K, which is really nice to work with. 60 frames per second and 1080 isn't bad. Obviously, it's better than a lot of other cameras, but 60 is still fairly restricted in terms of 2020 camera quality. I don't take too many photos, so the quality, that's probably why I don't remember the megapixel amount, is because I don't really use it too much. The speed is really quick, but the battery also only lasts 15 minutes. So overall, I'd say that this is an okay drone. Now, as the title of the video suggests, there's another drone that I would suggest pairing along with this. So I just bought the Mavic Air 2, which came out this past summer, I think, in 2020. It has a very similar look to the Mavic Mini in terms of the body style and the way it looks, but it's a lot bigger, it's heavier, so it's obviously restricted a lot more, but the camera quality is so much better. I have it right here. You know what? I think I'm gonna do a different kind of unboxing than I normally do, so let's just flip it up. here it is, the Mavic Air 2. You can tell right away that it's quite a lot bigger, heavier, thicker. All around, it just looks a lot better than the Mavic Mini. While I don't remember the exact specifications of the Mavic Mini, the Mavic Air 2 is a lot more fresh in my memory, so I can throw up some of these specs. It shoots 4K up to 60 frames per second, 1080 at up to 120 or 240 frames per second. It also shoots in normal or D-Cine-like, which is DJI's version of a log footage. So it gives you a lot more color grading opportunities to push and pull a little bit more than normal footage would give you. The camera quality is 48 megapixels, which is actually 2 times more than my A6500 up here. Who knows, maybe I'll just start taking photos with this instead of my camera. It has a lot more sensors on it, so it has forward, backwards, and underneath down-facing sensors, so it can see a lot more of what's around it than what the Mavic Mini can, which is only underneath. It also comes with a little handy flashlight underneath, so if you're ever landing it at nighttime, this light can turn on and help you land it in a good spot. The batteries can support flight times more than 2 times more than the Mavic Mini of 34 minutes, which is incredible. And when you're in sport mode, you can fly over 60 kilometers an hour, I believe. I'm not sure what that is in miles per hour, but it's time to move to the metric system, I think. And I believe that's all of the main specs for the drone itself. The controllers are quite a little bit different. So the Mavic Mini controller is similar to the Mavic Pro, I believe, where it has the flip down phone holder, the flip up antennas. It doesn't have the screen like the Mavic Pro, but aside from that, it's fairly similar. But the Mavic Air 2 controller is much different. It's one solid block like this. The thumb controllers are kept in the bottom, and the antenna is actually part of the phone holder, which comes up at the top. You pull it up, and then your phone clamps down right here. Personally, I think this is a lot more comfortable. You're looking up at your phone instead of down underneath the controller, which is a little bit more intuitive for me. It also has some extra finger holders, so it feels a lot more like a real video game controller, which I think is probably a good feel for what you want for controlling something like this. Another bonus with the Mavic Air 2 is that both of these can charge with USB-C, whereas the Mavic Mini is micro USB. So with the Mavic Mini, I didn't bother getting the Fly More combo because at the time I wasn't sure of how much I was going to be using it. But with the Mavic Air 2, I did get the Fly More combo, which comes with 2 extra batteries, which gives me a total of an hour and a half, an hour and 30 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, so that's 12, 40, an hour and 46 minutes, I believe, total. Now, if you're flying at sport mode and you're pushing it to its limit a little bit more, the max flight time kind of shortens the more you push it. So, an hour and 46 minutes is the absolute max potential flight time that you can get between the 3 of these batteries. But that's still a lot better than the 45 minutes that I would get with 3 Mavic Mini batteries. Aside from the batteries, it also comes with this nice leather carrying case, which is quite convenient because it actually holds all 4 of these components pretty nice. I can't carry the extra batteries with me, but if I'm not sure of which one I want to take to a shoot, I can actually fit both drones and both controllers into this one case, take it with me, and then I have the option to switch back and forth. Or if one dies, I can just switch to the other if I'm in a good zone to do it. The Mavic Air 2 also comes with 3 ND filters, which is neutral density, which basically is sunglasses for your camera. So those really help because you don't have control of the iris on this camera, so you can't stop down to f22 in like a super bright area. Not that you would really want to go to 22, but you know what I mean. And then it also comes with extra propellers. It also came with this guy. So when I first saw this, I was super hyped because it clips onto one of these batteries and it has 2 USB ports. So I thought, sweet, I can charge these batteries while I'm out, I can attach them to a power bank and charge them while I'm flying this drone. But that's not the case. This little connector is actually meant to convert the battery into a portable charger. So if you wanted to charge your phone, you can charge it from this battery. I was super bummed to find this out because charging the battery seems more important to me than charging from the battery. I can't imagine I'm actually gonna ever need to use this, mostly because whenever I'm out filming, I bring 2 or 3 USB power banks with me. This is kind of useless to me. So now you might be wondering, okay, so we have these 2 drones. Why would any filmmaker need 2 sets of drones? Why can't I just use the Mavic Mini, or why can't I just use the Mavic Air 2? Each one is good in its own zone. The Mavic Mini is good in, basically, it's not great, but it's good anywhere, as long as you're following the rules of where you can fly it. But you're not gonna get the great footage that you might be wanting. You're gonna get good footage. You can't really use the footage as much as you can with other drones. Because of how limited the camera sensor is and the software that's inside of it is, you kind of just get amateur looking footage out of it. Now if you're a really good drone pilot, you might be able to get better than me because, obviously because of crashing it 3 times, I might not consider myself the best. So that might be just something that I need to work on myself, but I have noticed the big difference between the footage of the Mavic Mini and the Mavic Air 2. I feel like I'm having a hard time explaining this, so let me just explain to you how I use these 2. So I pack up both of these drones into this case, I take them out, and I'm filming. If I'm just doing some B-roll for a YouTube video, shooting on the go for a company, I use both of these depending on where I'm at. If I'm in the city, I'll use the Mavic Mini. If I'm outside of the city and I'm outside of any controlled airspace, then I use the Mavic Air 2. If I have a choice between shooting in the city or outside of the city, I'll almost always choose to go outside of the city, even if that means driving a little bit more, because I'll be able to get much better footage out of the Mavic Air 2. Now you don't only have to get the Mavic Air 2 if you want to do this kind of dual drone setup. You could go with the Mavic Air 1, you could go with the Mavic or the Mavic 2, you could go with the Mavic Pro or the Mavic 2 Pro or the future Mavic 3 or the future Mavic 3 Pro or what have you. But for the price, I feel like the Mavic Air 2 is similar to the Mavic Mini, where you kind of get the average of the best quality for the best price. Now they're obviously in different categories. The Mavic Mini is in the category under 250 grams. The Mavic Air 2 is in the category above it. But you compare the Mavic Air 2 to the Mavic 2 Pro, you're not really losing out on a whole lot compared to the Mavic 2 Pro, which is almost twice the price of the Mavic Air 2. The flight time I think is longer on the Mavic Air 2. The camera megapixel amount is basically the same. The footage is more or less the same. The biggest difference is the size of the sensor from 1 inch to ½ an inch, I believe. I mean, it's up to you if you want to spend that much more just for a slightly larger sensor. But for me, I didn't think that it was necessary. I was happy spending whatever this Mavic Air 2 cost to get the Fly More combo, which came with the drone and all of that other stuff that you saw in the unboxing. So I guess this video is more about you thinking about your needs in terms of what drones to buy. Maybe you only need the Mavic Mini and that's the only thing that you need to buy. If that's all you need, then great. That's a lot less money for you to spend, and it's still a great drone to use. Now, if you're needing a little bit more, I would highly recommend the Mavic Air 2 Obviously, as I said, the price versus quality difference is probably the best that I've seen on any of the drones recently. I'm definitely excited to take these out to use them a little bit more because the Mavic Air 2 is still pretty new to me. I've only taken it out once or twice, but I'm very excited to use it a lot more. I'll throw on some of the footage that I took on the first flight. Thankfully, I didn't crash this one yet. I don't think I'd be as easygoing as if I crashed the Mavic Mini, but I think the footage out of the Mavic Air 2 is just as I expected, really good. At 4K 60, it looks super crisp, nice, beautiful slow motion, and I was able to play around with the colors a little bit more because of the Cine or Cine-like recording capabilities of it. I just noticed that the little red drone light is dead behind me. But basically what this is for is it has a little Velcro piece on the bottom, and it comes with stick-on Velcro pads that you can put on the roof of these drones. And basically all it is, oh, it's still alive. So it has a white light that is solid, strobes or flashes, and then you got solid green, strobing green, and flashing green, and then solid red, strobing red, and flashing red. So I didn't actually buy this for safety reasons. I bought this for future photography projects that I want to try out. I've seen a few people on Reddit use their drones along with long exposure shots at night, where they have the drone with an LED on it flying through the air during a long exposure shot, and the LED on the drone is moving, so you're capturing that light trail, but it's in a fairly new kind of look for photography because the only real light trails that you can get are on roads from cars, or the very rare airplane if you go shooting at an airport. With this, I can stick this on a drone and I have full control over where I'd fly this drone while I'm doing this long exposure shot. So I think it's going to be quite an interesting way to challenge myself in flying at night safely and long exposure shooting with a moving object that I control. If I end up doing it well, I'll probably make a video about it. I've been really into doing star trail photography recently. Here's one of the samples that I did, and here's another sample of one that I did a little bit later on. So these are the only two shots that I've done very successful so far. Throw a comment down below if you're interested in a video on how I did those, because I'm still learning, still improving, but I think I've got enough knowledge to be able to teach about them. As you might have seen in the video that I posted before this one, if you haven't seen that one, I'll throw it up right here. My channel is kind of morphing away from the old rad tech technology unboxing reviews to filmmaking, photography, a little bit of unboxing and tech videos, but this is my first video talking about filmmaking as a whole video. So far it's just been talking about maybe tech that might help out with filmmaking in one sense. So also let me know how you thought about this one. What do you think about me changing up the topic of this channel? And I think that's about it for me. I'm gonna go test these out a little bit more. I actually have a little project to film in about half an hour from this video with this Mavic Mini. Well, that's it for this video. I'm gonna leave you guys with my favorite clip that I've shot with one of these drones. I'll let you guess which one it's from, and I will let you know in about 10 seconds from now. What did you think? Was it the Mavic Mini or the Mavic Air 2? It looked really good, if I may say so myself. It is the Mavic Air 2. I don't think the Mavic Mini can compete in that area, but anywho, catch you in the next one, and I'll need to think of some new way to finish off my videos. Go shoot something. Go film something. Go make something. Go crash your drone like me. All right. Peace.